So I know you obviously did the community acupuncture sessions. You have a real passion for mental health in terms of reaching out to other people like me and communities and whatever. But you're taking that to another level now, aren't you?
Yeah. So I have started workshops and retreats, natural resilience workshops. We're going to take small groups of people. And well, the title, what our goal is to reconnect people back to nature and teach them the art of resilience. So resilience, it's a word I love, and I didn't, when I spoke to you about this, I didn't want to say a mental health workshop because I think that word kind of gets thrown about too much, doesn't it? It's kind of people say it.
It's now got a bit of a, I don't want to say stigma, but mental health, it's kind of me.
No, I agree. And to be honest, that is why the workshops won't say or dwell on mental. It's about resilience. It's about that life can be extremely difficult at times, but it's a word I love, and it's just about being resilient. It's picking yourself up, dusting yourself down, learning from what you've been through and moving on. And this is what the workshop is all about, but having it in a nature setting and trying to reconnect. I just think...
Are we talking camping, glamping? Can I bring
Well, at the minute, because of what everything's going on...
Can't bring her electric blanket is what I'm asking.
No, can I just stay at the Galgorm?
There's no friends.
If it's in the grounds, the Galgorm somewhere...
That's not being very resilient.
I've seen a baby rabbit on the lawn, that kind of thing. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh dear, no, I don't think that would work.
No?
I don't know if a Galgorm would work.
Could we try it? We'll just try it.
Debrief in the Galgorm. So the first ones, this next batch that are going to run this year is in Crawfordsburn Forest Park. And it's in the Scout Centre. So it's very basic, very primitive, and it's a big wooden building within a forest. And I think, to me, and it all stems from the community acupuncture events, we're working with a lot of particularly young men. And I think when I went to do my diploma in the ear acupuncture, I was the only man on the course. And I felt, not that I felt uncomfortable being with women, but I went, have I made the wrong, what is this? What is this treatment? Have I made a mistake? And the guy that was taking it, I don't smoke, and I said to him, I'm going to go out for a smoke here, and I wasn't coming back. And he came out after me and he said, is everything okay? And I went, I don't think this is for me. And he said, listen, my son took his own life when he was in his early 20s, and this is why I started off doing acupuncture, and this is now why I teach it. But none of these women in this course are going to attract people like my son. My son was a bit of a tearaway, but he's going to look at you with all your tattoos and how you look and how you speak, and he might have a bit of a connection before.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And once he said that, I went, right, okay.
You're the most important person to be there.
People like us. People need
more important,
people like us.
Yes.
Yeah. So I promised him I'd stay the duration, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. It's a very, I love the treatment. It's 5 needles in each ear. And it's used all over the world. Every refugee camp, every disaster, still to this day, it's used. And it was introduced by the Black Panthers in Brooklyn and the Bronx, and it was all to deal with like the crack cocaine epidemic. Because in America, you have to pay for your healthcare. So all these addicts couldn't pay for treatment because they're broke, they've got nothing. So Black Panthers and community activists kind of started these addiction centres, and it was used every day. They went and got it, and it's just kind of spread throughout the Western world. What?
So is it, because I know there's Western and Eastern, is it Chinese medicine, acupuncture, or is it something on its own? Or?
Acupuncture works with what chi, or energy in the body, and it talks about acupuncture meridians, where kind of highways or routes that the energy flows. So with acupuncture, you have to be very, very specific, and we'll look, it's 5 different points. Whereas the westernized version of acupuncture is called dry needling.
Yes, like what a physiotherapist would do. Okay, that's...
And that is kind of working with the muscles and triggers or myofascial trigger points in the muscle.
Okay.
To me, acupuncture is far superior. And I know people I do both, and people get skeptical and go, acupuncture, it's all to do with like a placebo effect, which probably is in a way, because it's all about like having a good mindset. If somebody comes in and goes, this is rubbish, this isn't going to do anything, well, the reality is it probably won't. You can't help somebody like that. They need to help themselves. But by doing the acupuncture events, I was introduced to a lot of young men that came up for it that just felt lost in life. And I was listening to their stories, and some of it would have made the toughest person cry. Some of their stories were just, it would have broke your heart, and I kind of felt compelled to do something. And there was a couple of young fellas, and within that small group of friends, kind of Twinbrook direction, up around West Belfast, there were 19, and 3 of that small group of friends had taken their own life in 12 months. And I remember thinking, this isn't right, because life now, we are comfortable in the Western world. I mean, you go into your house and you press a button and heat comes on, but there has to be something. And as harsh as this sounds, I think they almost need to learn what resilience is. That you kind of, when times get tough, you just don't press an exit button and say, I'm out of here, because it just it amplifies the trauma. So we did barefoot running in the ice. We used to meet at 5:30 in the morning in Wallace Park and do laps around a frozen pitch in our bare feet. And what I got them to do was place their flip-flops on the side of the pitch. And we agreed we were going to do 12 lengths, which isn't that much just when you're jogging and chatting. And we all agreed. We all put our hand and says we're going to do 12. But each time you did a lap, you run past your flip-flops. So it's sore. I mean, it's that cold that your feet almost burn. So at any time they run past their shoes, they could have ended it, put their shoes on, got into the car and stuck the heating on and got warm. But we'd agreed to do this together as a group to finish 12. And it was almost showing them then at the end of it, hands up whose feet are numb, and everyone put their hands up, and hands up whose feet were numb within the first 30 seconds. And hands up who thought it was sore, and I was putting my hands up too, because it hurts me as much as it's hurting them. And then it's saying, well, you suffered at the start, but we agreed we were going to finish this. You could have pressed that button, you could have put your shoes on at any lap, but you didn't. You kept pushing on, and now look back on what you've done. You've actually run a mile this morning in your bare feet and ice cold, when you could have just said no after 400 metres. And it's just trying to teach them that art of resilience, of just being a bit hardy, having a wee bit of education that life there can be, we're all guaranteed to face, wasn't it? You're guaranteed to face taxes and death, not the only thing.
One thing you're guaranteed is
but the reality is, I am a very positive person. This sounds quite doom and gloom, but
it really doesn't. I am so blown away, Ciaran.
Well, we as humans aren't meant to be loners. Sure, we're not. That's probably one of the telltale signs of depression. Is kind of when you withdraw. We're meant to form wee communities and wee tribes, like you talked about, connect with people. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I'm so blown away. It's amazing what you're doing and the message that you're putting out there. And I think, especially being I have a 13-year-old son, and you talking about them boys, and even my daughter as well, obviously, but for you, because you are this big burly guy with the tattoos, and you were a power lifter, and you're out swimming in the cold water, so they would see you as like a tough guy, but behind that, it's incredible what you're doing. We just need more people like you, and for you to speak out and to tell the young boys who have no direction or the right kind of role model in their life. They might not have the right role models in their life, or teachers or parents or whatever, and to know that there is people like you out there, and what you're doing out there to go to is incredible, and the message is unreal. Do you mind me asking you, so did you, your journey as to why you're now?
I think I just grew up in what you perceive at the time to be a normal working class environment.
Okay.
Probably, my father is your old school traditional hard working dad, but boys don't cry. Grow a set of balls, man up. One of these ones where he almost seen you as being soft. As I have a big scar on my head, and I remember as a child, like in primary school, so 9 or 10, jumping up and hitting it off like a kitchen cupboard that was metal. And because I jumped up, the blood just spurted everywhere. And I remember screaming with pain and shock, and he came in and went, "Stop crying, what are you crying like a girl for?" So I think you kind of grew up being afraid to talk about your emotions.
So what did that, what's your memory of that it's wrong to cry?
Confusion, yeah.
Confusion.
Am I not? I remember being embarrassed then. I remember going, oh, shit.
Listen, feelings.
I've cried when I shouldn't have, do you know what I mean? But I was in genuine pain and shock, covered in blood.
It's the most natural thing in the world.
Of course, and you're a kid, you're a child. So I suppose now what I do now is break the cycle. So I have a son and a daughter, and with my son, I hug him and tell him I love him every day. And it'll never be a case of boys don't cry. I'll teach him to be resilient, and I'll teach him, you know.
That's it. It's, you know, your dad coming, you know, obviously from his dad or whatever. So he thought he was teaching you to be resilient doing that.
He thought he was teaching me to be a
perspective.
man in the world, and that you taught a man to be a man in the world by you don't show emotion, you're tough. Do you know what I mean? That and it's just the way. It's not his fault per se. It's just how he was brought up too. But it was kind of, you want your kids to have a better experience than you done. And I was probably, you know, he grew up in Belfast in the 70s, which wasn't a great place. And that was just his way of, you know, a man should have hardened hands as opposed to being in the books. Mm-hmm. So I kind of threw away being intelligent in school. I kind of threw it all away and went to work on building sites at 16 and 17 because I thought that's what you're meant to do. Whereas in reality, I think it's stuck with me, and I've came so much further than that now. So that was the first half of my life, say from 0 to 17. Now, kind of mid-30s, I'm thinking that there was a lot that was wrong. I can put that right with my kids' lives, but more importantly, I've learnt a lot that I can teach others. So I think I'm lucky and blessed enough that I can connect with young people, especially young men, kind of 18, 19, 20, and when they're telling me their stories and what's going on at home or what's going on at school, you can relate to them. Do you know what I mean? And I can tell them my story and work with them, and just by saying one thing, just by, you know, there was always, you have to leave school and work on a building site because you're the man of the house now. Do you know what I mean? Wee things like that. It's just trying to almost plant a wee seed in their mind and not do everything for them, but just give them that wee push and a wee bit of self-confidence. And I think self-doubt is massive as well, just to give them a wee bit of self-belief and just say, right, go for it.
Yeah. But I think as much as anything, they'll appreciate and recognise the fact that they'll be like, you are you and you are everything that you are, but you give a shit about them. You've gone to them to say something to them, and they'd be like, oh, all right, okay. You know, when you could be off swimming in ice water, or do you know what I mean? You could be away doing something else, but you give your time to go and say, I care about you. You know, that says a lot.
As humans, we are meant to care though. Haven't we? We are meant to care as human beings. You are not meant to, we are emotional animals. That's what sets us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom. We're very emotional and very intellectual, and that's what sets us apart. And it's all about it's a subject that I'm really, really fascinated in, is emotion, why we have them, how you control them as opposed to them controlling you. And
how do you use them to your benefit or your creation?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just trying to teach that young people. You know, I was an angry young man at one point, and I used to train in a boxing club. To me, that was my coping mechanism. Now it could be argued that my coping mechanism with kind of a busy life is the cold water, but they've always been healthy coping mechanisms. Well, not always, mostly healthy coping mechanisms. But it's just trying to
It's just letting the guys and the girls know that there's a choice, and that's
there's a massive choice.
I keep saying this every episode. I keep saying there's choices. It's knowing you have a choice. You don't have to be stuck in the life or the habits that you're in. There's choices. It's like, just go and get in the bloody water, or go and do this, or go and do that. There's so many different things out there, and honestly, I'm really blown away by.
Oh, that's good.
It's so good. I'm loving it. So tell us, what was the next thing you wanted? The acupuncture?
Yes, we've already talked about the acupuncture, but tell us about the cupping then as well.
So the cupping is kind of the same theory. So it's been used for thousands of years in the East, the likes of China and Japan and that. And it works on the concept of qi, that the flow of energy in the body can become stagnated. So they, and still to this day, use it in traditional Chinese medicine. they will use it for unblocking chi. Here, you say it to some people in a gym, and they go, "What are you on about? I want cupping." But physically, what it does, it
And
pulls.
it's not like cupping. It's
No.
nothing.
So it's glass or plastic cups that are placed on muscles on the body, and the air is removed, so it forms like a vacuum. So once that cup's on, you can't take it off. So when you're massaging somebody, you're inviting fresh blood in the muscles. So CPR is massaging the heart. You're trying to get blood around the heart. With cupping, you're just bringing in a massive amount of fresh blood. So it's great for muscle recovery, and it's also great for just promoting a better flow of energy in the body and recovery.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You're left with all the circles in your back, but it goes away. But it just
Frees everything up, doesn't it?
frees everything up.
So that kind of when you're stressed, I don't know about you, when I'm stressed, I hold it all up in my shoulders and back, and whereas after cupping, it just frees that all up a bit, and it's great.
It is great.